which will be in a remote way. So this is Uguagliati, sorry for the pronunciation, about the channel incision.
I'm sorry, can you announce that this is the last candidate for the SCR session?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So this is a talk given by a candidate for the ECR session. So Uguagliati et al. Channel incision tidal landscapes, question marks, insights from the Venice lagoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Francesca Uguagliati, and I will present you some of the results of our analysis on channel incision in tidal landscapes. This work aims to study the initial phase of development and the following evolution of tidal channels in the Venice lagoon. Tidal channels provide preferential pathways for tide propagation and for sediment and nutrient transport, and they also control the hydrodynamics and the morphodynamics of tidal environments. The fate of tidal systems depends on a delicate balance between a variety of external constraints and drivers. So, understanding the origins and evolution of tidal channels is a key step to addressing the tidal system response to climate changes and anthropogenic disturbances. In this study, we try to understand where tidal channels begin. How? We studied the erosional and the positional patterns that can be observed in tidal channels. In particular, we analyze whether tidal channels are first initiated over tidal flat surfaces and then inherited by saltmarshes, or if tidal channels are capable to incite the vegetated saltmarsh surface, overwhelming the erosion resistance to channel incision provided by vegetation. To do this, we consider two fundamental characteristics of the tidal environments that are platform vertical accretion and channel lateral migration. The present study focuses on a variety of tidal creeks that cut through different saltmarshes of the Venice lagoon from north to south. The Venice lagoon, which originated during the Flandrian transgression, is an elongated water body oriented northeast-southwest that covers an area of about 550 kilometers squares. It has a microtidal and semi-diurnal tidal regime, and its present setting is the result of interaction between natural and anthropogenic processes. The typical morphological structures of the Venice lagoon are saltmarshes, tidal flat, and a network of channels. Saltmarshes are relatively more elevated areas submerged during high tides and colonized by halophytic vegetation. Tidal flats are permanently submerged because of their lower elevation and do not host halophytic vegetation but can host seagrass. Tidal channel networks include morphologies belonging to a wide range of spatial scale, from the main channels that branch off the inlets and dissect the tidal flats to the smaller tidal creeks that cut through saltmarshes. The analyzed channels belong to 5 different study sites. 3 of these are in the northern lagoon, and these are the Pagliaca saltmarsh, the San Felice saltmarsh, and the Burano saltmarsh. The other 2 are in the south-central lagoon, and these are the Central Lagoon saltmarsh and the Conche saltmarsh. For the analysis, we considered 6 meanders for each study site, for a total of 30 meanders with 6 cores per transects. Besides this, some other cores were recovered for more precise data analysis, so in total we collected 191 cores. The axial transects start on the outer bank point of the band, and their length is twice the width of the channel. The core named O1 was taken on the outer bank rim of the channel, the core C on the channel tarweg, the core I1 on the inner bank rim of the channel, and the I2, I3, and I4 cores were collected at 1/3, 2/3, at one of the channel widths respectively. Then the topography of the study area and the location of the stratigraphic course were surveyed using a differential GPS. Then the fresh surface of each core was photographed in its entirety and in detail to obtain high-resolution orthophotos by which facies analyses were carried out. The sedimentological analysis allowed us to identify 4 main types of deposits, which were observed in almost all the 191 cores analyzed in the study. The identified deposits are salt marsh, channel lag, point bar, and tidal flat deposits, and in the next slides, I'll show you some examples. Typical features of salt marsh deposits are oxidation spots, the presence of roots, and sometimes plant debris lamination and millimetric sandy laminae. While the main characteristic of channel-like deposits is the presence of fragmented shells and of plant debris. The observed point bar deposit consists instead of massive silt-rich mud and of sandy deposits with millimetric laminae of well-sorted fine to very fine sand and plant debris. Lastly, here we can see some characteristic tidal flat deposits from different cores. TF1 consists of a massive sandy layer with well-preserved shells and plant debris. TF2 is made of fine sand rich in organic matter, while TF3 consists of horizontal sandy laminae. By the integration between topographical data and sedimentological analysis of the collected cores, it was possible to correlate the different recognized deposits for each transect. The correlation of the deposits allowed us to recognize the position and the dimension of the point bar. In addition, from the position of the point bar and its brink and channel talweg trajectories within each transect, it was possible to determine where the erosive processes that led to channel initial formation occurred. The point of intersection between the point bar brink and the channel talweg trajectories is highlighted by the red circle. Moreover, from the point bar brink trajectories, it was also possible to establish how much the meander band migrated laterally. By observing the various case studies, we note that in most cases, 24 out of 30, the analyzed channels originated through the incision of a salt marsh surface. Here, we can see an example of this. Both in the C and in the I1 course, we can see salt marsh deposits under channel-like deposits. In addition, the intersection between the brink and the channel talweg trajectories, highlighted here by the red circle, is located within the salt marsh deposits. Whereas only in 6 cases, channels originated through the incision of a tidal flat surface. Here, in fact, both in the C and in the I1 course, we can see tidal flat deposits under channel-like deposits. In addition, the intersection between the brink and the channel talweg trajectories, highlighted also here by the red circle, is located within the tidal flat deposits. So we propose a conceptual model that describes the 2 limit scenarios of incision and evolution of a tidal channel. The sketch displays idealized stratal geometries generated by the lateral shift of the point bar brink and the channel talweg under aggradational conditions. Here, we can see the incision and the following development of a tidal channel over a salt marsh surface. Here, instead, we can see the incision and evolution of a channel over a tidal flat surface. In both cases, the red dashed lines show the point bar brink and the channel talweg trajectories that determine the point bar. In this slide, we can see two examples of the two scenarios. Here, we can see the incision of a channel over a salt marsh surface. The channel then grew and migrated at the same time as the marsh vertical accretion. Here, instead, we can see the incision of a channel over a tidal flat surface. Then, during its growth, the channel was inherited by a salt marsh. What about this? So, we found a gray area in many cases. In this section, in fact, we can see that the intersection between the point bar brink and the channel target trajectories in both cases is located at the interface between the salt marsh and the tidal flat deposits. That's probably because the first incision of the channels occurs when vegetation begins to grow on top of the tidal flat surface, thus favoring a greater flow concentration in some areas that promoted erosion. Concluding, our analysis allowed us to develop a conceptual model for channel initiation based on the identification of the point bar brink and the channel target trajectories. And we observed that in most cases, the analyzed channels originated through the incision of a salt marsh surface, thus challenging the traditional paradigm of channel inheritance. Lastly, it should be noted that vegetation growth plays a key role in channel incision. Thank you.
Thank you for that my talk. Can you hear me? Can you hear the room?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's time for questions. Questions in the room? I have a question. So you show transects across the various channels you have studied, and you report cross sections with the cores that are displayed at equal distances, so that you can reconstruct the geometry of the let's say sigmoid shapes of the channel bar, and then therefore to see what kind of trajectory the accretion migration has. My question is whether you have a good control on the fact that the transect is corresponding in each of those channels to the place where you have the maximum lateral migration, or is it something that has been done more or less randomly?
Yeah, we need to take more course in the next times to have more precise data on the size of the bar, and so we need more data. Yeah.
Okay. Another question: do you have an age model based upon, for example, radiocarbon ages or?
No, we don't have.
So you assume that the onset of each of the cartoons that you draw correspond to the same time for each of the channels that you have. If you want to compare them afterwards, it should be within a time framework that should be the same. Could you comment on this?
No, we don't. We don't take into consideration these things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
No
you.
more questions in the room? Yes, one? No? Okay, thanks. So I take, Bob, you have a question? Okay, one question more.
Very interesting study, and thank you for the presentation. Most of the channels, if I understood correctly, you seem to be saying that the depth, the actual instantaneous depth of the channel does not change very much over its evolution, that it's formed and then it grades with the base of the channel rising as quickly as the marsh surface. I think I saw only one example where the channel seemed to become deeper as it evolved. Did I see that right? Could you comment on depth history of the channels?
Yeah, so in most cases, channels originated at the interface between the salt marsh and the tidal flat deposit. So in this presentation, I put only 2 examples, but there are like 20 over 30 analyzed channels that are formed during the marsh aggression.
Okay, thank you. I take opportunity to say that it was the last